Everyday Samurai, Episode 51. Greetings, friends, and welcome to Everyday Samurai, in service to your liberty and the security of a free state. Glad you could join us. Some time ago, I was invited onto the Lizard News Network to have a broad discussion on economics, politics, martial arts, power elite analysis, including the possibility of lizard people running the world, and other current events. It was quite a wild ride, and we covered quite a lot of topics, so I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Tighten your helmet straps and stand by.
I'm very interested in Japan. I don't know. I just thought it would be cool to talk to you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for setting this up. First, I have to ask, though, what is the premise of the Lizard News
The
Network?
premise is the government is lying to us. There could be aliens. There could be lizard people. There's definitely other dimensions. There are things going around in the world, especially right now, that are draconian and scare the living hell out of me because I've read my history and lots of it. And the way things are going, things don't end well for the public. And so that was mainly my focus on creating this, talking about that. But I also like to talk about other things. Sometimes music. I love music. I like to talk about politics and hidden agendas. I like to talk about secret operations that are proven facts that most normal people do not dive into or don't even waste their time with because they're too busy in their normal lives. But I always make time to figure out what's really going on because I feel I get real sick and tired of being lied to constantly. And yeah, that's basically the premise of the show. But like I said, man, it could be lighthearted. I've talked to authors, I've talked to tarot card readers, I've talked to people that have had near-death experiences. Basically anything, man, to be honest with you.
Well, that's very impressive.
Yes, sir. I'm just trying to titillate my mind and occupy myself because I don't drink alcohol. When you don't drink alcohol, oddly enough, you have time to do many other things.
It's probably a wise policy
That's where I'm at right now. Eh?
to avoid intoxication and to stay focused in the here and now so that you could see things as clearly as possible given our limited human faculties. I will agree with you that there are quite a number of different activities taking place that are not necessarily in the best interests of the common people. I focus everyday samurai life on three premises: samurai-related martial arts, and I distinguish those from any others because of the nature of samurai combat for basically 1,000 years was premised upon edged weapons engagement. Now that looks very, very different, especially in training, from what you might see in the MMA or traditional kick-punch grappling type martial arts. I think that edged weapons defines what the samurai were engaged in. They always carried two swords. That was what distinguished them from the commoners. And I'm speaking in generalities. When we talk about samurai history, we're talking about over 1,000 years. So
I'm sorry. I have a quick question. Two quick questions.
Yeah, go
Can I
ahead.
ask, what is your ethnicity? Because you sound like you speak really good English.
Oh, thank you. I'm straight up American. So I have
Okay.
German, Swiss, and Irish heritage. And I like to claim that I have some Japanese. People used to tell me I looked quote unquote chinky when I was a kid, but I don't have anything necessarily in my blood, or at least that I could document. So, and I grew up in Connecticut, but I moved to Florida when I was 21.
What are you doing in Japan?
Love the samurai related martial arts. I came over here with the military and stayed for the rest of it. So I train in two different samurai related martial arts. I go around to a lot of temples and
Really?
various historic sites in Japan, and I just love being here.
That is so amazing, dude. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you because I also have been wanting to go to Japan. And I tell myself that one day I'm just going to go there and I'm not going to come back. And it sounds like that's what you did.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And like you said, the horizon is not very bright for the average person knowing what's going on in the world and seeing the trend line. So if you want to be in an area where, and we talk about strategic relocation, where do you want to be when the conflagrations happen? Where do you want to be when the money supply goes kaput, when the money that you're using is no longer valid and we enter into a hyperinflation scenario? Do you want to be where things are chaotic, or do you want to be where people are disciplined and that they have strong social ties and things along those lines? So coming here was part of my strategic relocation program.
How long have you been there?
Going over 5 years now.
Did you just like Okay, you said you were in the military. Did you have a wife or anything that was here in America? You were single and you said, "Screw it, I'm going to Japan."
Exactly right. So
Nice.
I joined the military basically 3 days after my 17th birthday. I entered into the National Guard
Mm,
and spent some time after high school training with the military, and then bounced around, did some college, some other jobs, a lot of security work at nightclubs and things along those lines. And then I got into law enforcement in Florida when I was 24. I was still in the National Guard, and I got to see the ugly side of politics from inside a sheriff's office.
really?
And every 4 years, you have to deal with a new regime that comes in. So I got to see politics on the microcosm.
What stood out to you on that? Do you have any kind of insights on maybe the ugly side, like you said? Do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to quickly
Sure.
finish. The premise of Everyday Samurai is samurai related martial arts, a victorious mindset, and then the science of political economy. So you talked a lot about conspiracy, and I don't deny the fact that all of that is likely valid. Probably not the alien piece or the lizard piece, but I look at
That's up to debate. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And
That's speculation.
but it's comforting to just go, those people can't be human, right? Because the things that they do are so psychopathic.
Right. That's basically where it comes from. So I'd like to get into all that stuff too before we move on. Do you know what kind of, did any greasy deals go down like in the department? Or
Absolutely.
I feel like once you get on the inside, that's when the freaking masks come off and you see a lot of things that aren't talked about or seen really.
Well, a lot of the conspiracies are right out in the open. I think Edward Snowden just came out with an
Yeah.
article, and he's giving speeches about that the most pernicious and the most dangerous conspiracies are right out in the
Oh
open.
yeah. They're so out in the open that people just don't believe it or they just accept it. Like they're like, "Oh, it's fine, they're not trying to take over the world. Oh, they don't want to wipe us all out. I mean, come on now. What they're saying in the news, they care about us and yeah, vaccines are great. We should get all the vaccines and you know what I mean? It's out there in the open."
It is out in the open, and it's a deliberate campaign.
Mhm.
And this has been going on since Edward Bernays wrote the book on propaganda. I mean, it's going on before then. It's just become more scientific and more institutionalized
Yeah.
in the 20th century, and now in the
Mhm.
21st century. I think with social media, it's gone into hyper overdrive.
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
Mhm.
on the local level, I mean, here's one: the war on drugs.
Yeah.
I grew up with all the propaganda, dare to say no to drugs, and Nancy
Me too.
Reagan, and all the talk about Pablo Escobar. And Tom Clancy wrote a book called Clear and Present Danger about how we need to go down there into South and Central America and start taking out these drug kingpins. So I got the idea. I was like, if it's so hard to find them, if it's a war, why aren't we whacking them? Why aren't we going
Yeah.
down there and taking them
Right.
out? So I was all on board for the war on drugs. And I saw the movie New Jack City. I don't know if you remember that one.
I heard of it, but I don't remember it. I'm 35, so I was probably in my early,
Okay.
I don't know, teens.
Yeah, I'm 48, so a couple of years ahead of you. And
Mm-hmm.
that movie New Jack City was like, yeah, that's what we should do. Go in and kill them. So, that was the idea that I had in my head when I joined law enforcement.
That's a good point.
And then I got to see that it's a sham, that the war on drugs is really a war on people and their property. It has nothing to do with
Yeah.
protecting people.
I live in Texas. I'm in South Texas. I'm in Corpus Christi. It's a few hundred miles from the southern border. And it's kind of scary. I mean, I'm not super close, but I see things sometimes and I see videos and they're straight up. I mean, the cartels are fully armed. They have jammers, they have sophisticated technology, they have all the things a normal small country military would have, and it's the cartel. And it makes me wonder, like what you were saying, like why don't we just go straight up wipe them out? Because easily we could. I mean, hell, we're in freaking Afghanistan for 20 something years trying to blow those dudes to kingdom come. Why the hell don't we care about the people in Mexico murdering and bringing drugs like left and right into America, killing our people? And in fact, the damn Mexican cartels and the drug smuggling has killed a millionfold of Americans than Palestinians or people in Afghanistan.
That's true. The cartels are well funded, and you have to understand, again, this is where the political economy side of my triangular approach fits in. Look to prohibition. Look to the actual premise of government. What is government here to do? It's here to protect people and their property. I call it the property integrity principle. But when government turns into an instrument of plunder, when law becomes perverted rather than protecting people and their property, and it starts to single out specific types of property that are then prohibited, i.e., alcohol during prohibition or drugs today, then people, because there's still a demand, the supply will adapt to meet that demand. People want drugs.
Yes.
And when you put these prohibitions on, then the supply has to become more extreme. They have to create more concentrated versions, which is why during prohibition, people wanted just regular alcohol like beer and wine and, yeah, some liquor. But the liquor then had to become stronger. And so you had these types of alcohol where people would drink it and go blind.
Damn.
Because the smugglers have to
Make it.
move it in a surreptitious way. So they want smaller portions to be more concentrated. Same thing with drugs. Crack is a more concentrated form of cocaine. You know, it used to be that people would just suck on the coca leaf.
Right.
And then they would include some cocaine in their products like cough syrup or even Coca-Cola. But then it became outlawed and they had to make more concentrated versions of it that they could transport or smuggle more successfully. And you start to see that now as the drug war continues to morph. Every time the government targets a different property,
Oh yeah.
then those
Yep.
smugglers start to adapt and it gets more extreme. And because they don't have legitimate outlets like courts where different providers can settle their disputes, then they go after each other with violence. And the violence gets to be more and more extreme because they want to put fear into their competitors. And so you see these things like people getting their heads chopped off with chainsaws in Mexico, right across the border. It's very sad, but it's a policy outcome.
Do you think the government has any place in the Mexican border and smuggling children and drugs and all that stuff here in America?
Well, the Constitution makes it very clear that the general government is supposed to protect the United States and keep them free from invasion while
True.
maintaining a Republican form of
But
government.
Joe Biden said we don't need a wall.
Right. Right. I'll go full disclosure here. I was a Border Patrol agent for a very short amount of time out in Arizona.
Oh, really? I thought about it. I'm like, nah, I don't feel like dying.
Well, it's not the dying piece. It's the ineptitude and the bureaucracy that will get you. You know, that was my experience with small town sheriff's offices and local law enforcement. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll get on with the big guys and they've got more resources.
Yeah.
So then they'll be able to sort these problems out. They won't have these little petty squabbles. Well, it's just as bad in the Border Patrol. It's a totally inept,
Yeah.
incompetent, and just bureaucratically stagnated agency. I would highly dissuade anyone from joining that organization.
Do you think Trump did a good job helping Border Patrol in the border of America? And why do you think that?
Not really.
No?
No.
And why do you think that everyone hated him for trying to secure the border?
So that's a big multi-phase question because, number one, you have to always ask, this is one of the lessons of a political economy, is always ask compared to what? Because everything is about trade-offs. So prefer Trump to Biden? Yes, of course. However, Trump wasn't really ideologically principled. He was just kind of going, he's a businessman, so he goes wherever the profit is, right?
Yeah.
And he goes wherever and he'll say whatever is necessary to get the crowd riled up and to win favor and support.
Sure. But I do feel that Trump tried to help, for one, like you said, the bureaucracy tying up the Border Patrol agents. I feel for one, he tried to help them with funds. He spent tons of money on trying to build a wall to funnel illegal crime into certain areas, and all around, I think that he could have gotten way more done if he wasn't being fought tooth and nail. I don't understand, because I remember when Obama said that we need to secure the borders and we need strong borders, and the Democrats clapped like seals and were so happy about that. Hillary Clinton was, yeah, we need strong borders, and then as soon as Trump says we need strong borders, it was like all of a sudden we want open borders.
And that's the nature of politics.
Yeah, that's the propaganda.
It is. It very much so. And it was 2009 when I was going through the Border Patrol Academy, and just at the tail end, just as I graduated, there was the murder of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry. And then it turned out that the gun that he was murdered with was run
Obama.
into Mexico by the Obama administration under Eric
Fast
Holder.
and Furious, right?
And that's a wonderful
Fast and Furious.
a conspiracy right in the open, now that it's blown open, right? And nobody went to jail for
Hell
it.
no, of course not.
So, yeah, Trump was better than the Obama administration, of course, because rhetoric counts. Political speech counts. And when you have a leader like Trump, who is saying that he's going to be tough on the border and to provide resources to the Border Patrol and other assets and agencies that are helping secure the border, that indicates to those that are trying to cross illegally that they're going to face resistance.
Right.
And so a lot of people won't even try.
Yeah.
And I think that is a wonderful thing, because this administration that we have now is completely incoherent.
I think now it's insanity. I've been watching videos. The cartels have better equipment than the Border Patrol agents. I mean, you probably know that firsthand. I mean, what kind of stuff did y'all have? I feel like they're running around with pistols, and these the cartels got M4s and stuff like that, and armored vehicles.
Yeah, we could draw an M4. That wasn't the issue. If you ever fired it, you'd be under scrutiny forever, and you'd wind up riding a desk and all the other things. So there was a great hesitancy to engage like that. And we had night vision scopes and all the other things, but the resources are bureaucratically managed under the Border Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security writ large. So, of course, it's going to be squandered. And you look at what types of training. You've got a focus on diversity and inclusion and all these other administrative requirements, whereas the cartels have one thing: profit.
Exactly.
They want to move product and sell it. So the profit is the bottom line, and everybody knows what their function is in the organization. Whereas in a bureaucracy, it's more about fulfilling bureaucratic mandates than fulfilling the mission. And this is another reason why no matter how much money a government throws to a bureaucracy, it will never be enough.
I know, because they blow it on stupid shit.
Yeah.
I feel like, do you think that the cartels care about transgenders or
Of course not.
being inclusive to letting all races and types and colors into their organization?
They care about whatever's going to profit them the most.
Yeah.
You know, here's a story from the Border Patrol talking about squandering resources. It wasn't at my station, but a station just further south. I was what was considered an inland station, and we would deploy down to the border. Talk about a waste of time. It was an hour drive down and an hour drive back every day for us to go patrol on the fence line, whereas there was a station that was right on the border, and some guy came in and said, look, I've been taking hormone therapy for the last couple of months, and I'm going in this weekend to have the final operation. So when I come back, either I'm going to be using the female latrines and showers, or you guys need to accommodate me. So they had to scramble over the weekend and figure out what they were going to do. But they wound up building a separate transgender bathroom and shower for this one individual.
Whoa. And that's what I don't get. Like, okay, you got 350 million people if you count illegals. We're pandering to less than 1% of the country, and it feels like that's all that's in the news 24/7.
That's right.
Like, I don't get it. Is that another operation of pure propaganda?
Absolutely.
These people are not stupid. This is not for no reason. Like, they're doing this for a reason. And I'm still trying to figure that one out. It could be a mask. They could be hiding behind this small class of people to play the victim or make more money or something. I don't know.
Here's the phrase that everybody needs to research: divide and rule.
Divide and rule.
The idea is to create wedge issues that divides people into different camps, so that those people, those different camps, can fight each other while the elite rob them blind.
Right.
So
100%. Yeah.
Every conspiracy flows from this.
Yeah. We're fighting each other to divert, because if the whole country was united, we'd be looking at the damn politicians saying, what the fuck is going on? But since we can't all stop fighting, they're just on the sidelines laughing at us and do whatever the hell they want.
And every time one issue subsides, they come up with another issue that keeps people divided and squabbling over nonsense while they enjoy the lion's share of the resource.
I didn't think about that. That makes perfect sense, dude. Like, as soon as you think one thing is starting to calm down, boom, we get hit with another thing. And then it's just another after another after another after another, and we don't have time to stop. It's just constant. That's done on purpose.
That's what makes it even more of a problem in today's modern age, because it's a 24-hour news cycle, constant bombardment with messaging over social media, television news, cable news, internet sources and outlets of all kinds, and people are so tuned in to different messaging that they don't have time to breathe. Way back when people were farmers, they didn't have television, maybe they had electricity in the early 1900s, but they didn't have 24-hour news. The televisions shut off at a certain time
Yeah.
when they were first introduced. Now that's not the case. So the messaging is constant.
Now we got television 24/7 in our pocket. Our phone is a massive tool of propaganda
And surveillance.
and surveillance. I can't fathom how much it's changed since the cell phone. 10 years ago, I had a crappy little flip phone that made phone calls and texts, and it cost a fortune. And now everyone has a really good computer in their pocket. And I don't know where it's going to stop. I don't know if they're going to integrate it into our minds. I don't know if we're turning into transhumanism. I'm kind of freaking out about it, but I feel like the left is winning and they're pushing insanity more and more. You don't live in America. A new video came out yesterday of the San Francisco Orchestra Symphony, and it was this bunch of gay people, and they were singing, "We're coming for your kids. We're gonna convert your children." And they're singing the song, and everyone thought it was parody, but we're like, and it was like, no, this is actually real. I don't know if they're trying to make the generation gay to bring down the population. If I was in the lower the population business, that's what I would do. I would release a virus, not too bad of one, maybe something in the lungs that would kill old people to help the social security bank account. And if you wrap all these things all up in a ball, you get one world government, you get population control. I don't know, man. That's what I see. That's my perspective on it. What do you think?
Population control is the name of the game. You just hit it on the head. And again, that's part of that divide and rule strategy, which requires constant surveillance in order to inform their propaganda campaigns.
Right.
So in my military career, I wound up working African security issues. And if you read about the history of Africa, particularly the scramble for Africa in the late 1800s, where the European powers were actually, they held a conference talking about who's going to get what. And the Africans weren't invited. So talk about a travesty about all
Were
these.
you in Africa?
I went to Africa several times to help spend the U.S. taxpayers' money with reckless abandon. It was such a waste, but it was fun at the time.
What did you do? Wait, was it for the government? I mean, like military?
Yeah, I was with the military, and I was engaged in providing what's known as security assistance.
To who?
Which was training and equipment.
Africans?
Specifically to African law enforcement.
Oh, okay.
And, I had a law enforcement background, and the military knew that, and the military had money to spend.
Right.
Because Congress allocates it, and again, this is one of those transition phases for me because I got to see the workings of high-level government and what they do with money. And I was responsible. I actually had a mandate to spend millions of dollars per year, and it was looked upon unfavorably if we gave money back.
Yeah.
So spend. It really doesn't matter what it's on. The lawyers had to check off on it, but spend that money no matter what. And I was really good at it, but it made me question. Everybody in the military has probably used the phrase, your tax dollars at work, with a great sense of irony and snark.
Yeah.
And I was good at spending money because I knew what cops need. And the Africans, it's a target-rich environment. They don't have a lot of resources. So anything you could spend money on, including evaluations and determining what they need. So you hire these military contractors to go down and do surveys and find out what these African forces and services need. And then I come up with a plan and work it through to get those things paid for and delivered to the Africans.
What the hell? Why were we paying for Africa's law enforcement?
Right. Because U.S. policymakers want those African security services to carry out our mandate. So we send the FBI, we send the Secret Service, we send the DEA, and customs, of course, to work with the Africans and provide training and equipment. And if any of those federal agencies and bureaucracies are too busy, then we hire private contractors so that retired DEA agents and FBI agents and customs agents will go and provide this training. And, we're buying influence.
But I don't get it. There was buying influence.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's no war. There was no wars over there. I know Africa is chaos.
Well, there's coups, there's conflicts, there's all sorts of things. Oh, well, you probably remember, and I was there. I was working at AFRICOM in Stuttgart, Germany, the day that the Libya conflict flared up, and I wound up having to work midnight shift in the Joint Operations Center. I was actually looking at aerial feed of the conflict taking place.
So it sounds like you had a big part in the military.
I got to see some very high level things, and I wasn't a high level influencer. I was just a functionary. I was just a paper pusher, basically. You know, once I left the action scene, I used to be infantry and I used to do some other technical things, and I love tactics, but I wanted to see things from a higher level. So working at a 4-star command provided me with a wonderful perspective, and I got to see just how incompetent things are at the highest levels of government as well. And again,
Did that push you?
I don't need to dive into great conspiracies to see just how dysfunctional government is, and how stealing resources from the American taxpayer and then spending them with reckless abandon, regardless of whether or not it creates the security that governments were constituted to provide. That's what makes me want to study political economy more thoroughly.
And that's what pissed me off, man. Because I feel like when I see like $300-400 missing out of my check every week, that pisses me off, dude. That pisses me off big time.
Yeah. I remember I was training in martial arts in Miami, and we went for pizza afterwards, Miami, Florida. We went for pizza and we paid by separate check. And I looked at my bill, and there was like the state of Florida tax, there was the Miami-Dade County tax, and then there was a separate thing. The city of Miami instituted a homeless tax.
What?
And it was, again, the pizza was like, hey, it's not us. The pizza parlor was like, this is not our doing. We're not the ones raising your bill. It's the city of Miami that's stealing from you so that they could redistribute it to the homeless, you know, and just multiply that.
They didn't give no money to the damn homeless. That's a damn lie. They pocketed that. I'm pretty sure they did that real quick.
Well, you can guarantee that they take a good portion of it before they distribute any services to the homeless.
Yeah.
You know, it's a racket.
That's why I stopped giving to these organizations. Like, you know, like when you go like to PetSmart, they're like, please donate $10 to the animal fund. And I was like, man, how much money does truly go to the animals? Probably like 10 cents out of that $10, I'm pretty sure.
You got to be careful. You got to look at things like Charity Navigator that examines what the administrative fees and how much does the CEO make and all the other things to make sure that you're giving to charities that are legit and actually do the work that they promise to do.
Oh, so there's like an app or a website or something, huh? That like tells you.
Yeah, Charity Navigator is one of them. But I'm very selective about, you know, I believe in charity. I believe in
and so do
welfare as long as it's not government administered.
Yeah, I'd rather give a homeless man $20 any day of the week than give to a homeless fund. Because I can give the dude the money, you know what I mean, hand to hand. He might go buy some weed or something, but maybe he would spend it on something he needs. So, like, I remember there's this place in Corpus called PADAP, Palmer Drug Abuse Program, and I would go there sometimes, and it was places where people that had drug problems, they could hang out, you know, play pool or go to meetings and stuff like that, right? And it was a building. It wasn't all fancy. It had a little TV in there and a couch. Then the owner rolls up. Guess what he was driving?
Tell me.
Damn Dodge Viper with Louis Vuitton seats and a badass suit. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? Oh, he owns PADAP. I'm like, oh, son of a. Yeah. And I know a lot of people that went to PADAP. That was the best place for them to buy drugs. Right. That was kind of threw me off big time. And I know that's just anecdotal evidence, but also I feel like I said, I feel like there's a lot of like the Clinton Foundation. Do you think they're credible?
They're corrupt as all get out. It's a money laundering operation, you know. But going back to your example, the nice thing about that was that you were personally involved with that charity and you could see the results of your donations. Yeah. And that's the way it needs to stay. Yeah. Because if you see something that is untoward, anything that looks corrupt, you can withdraw your funds. But when government gets involved in charity, you don't get the option, just like that homeless tax.
Yeah.
So I believe in charity. I believe in compassion. I believe in taking care of people that are downtrodden. Especially now, I have a very strong place in my heart for the veteran suicide epidemic.
Yeah.
But so I want to get involved in that. I want to donate to organizations that I believe are taking care of veterans. But
yeah,
as soon as government gets involved, it corrupts the process. So keep charity as local as possible and be directly involved so that when you see something like what you saw with that guy, driving his fancy car and wearing
Mm.
luxury
Mhm.
items, that you can say, this is not something I want to participate in and not something I want to contribute to.
Actually, before we started, I bought a little dresser off of OfferUp, and the dude was wearing a Vietnam veteran hat, and I asked him about it, and and he ended up opening up to me, and we talked for like 30 minutes in the parking lot, and I didn't even know the guy. He seemed a little bit distraught, and I was trying to bring him up, and I didn't even know this dude. I was just trying to raise his spirits. I feel like we need to care more about strangers, you know like I'll go talk to a stranger, like I said, just try to lift them up. Just talk to people and see what they're really thinking, because we go about our daily lives and we don't give it too much thought about people that you see. Yeah, there's people that look busy and they got money and they're going, but I usually like to talk to people that seem like they could need someone to talk to, because you can kind of get that vibe from somebody when they feel like they want to talk to you. And I just been doing that more often, and that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast too. I just wanted to talk to people that I don't normally, because you know how you talk to the same few people that you see every day. I think it's cool to be able to talk to people that I have no idea who they are, but you can also have good conversations and positive outlooks in the end. Just like talking to you, I'm learning a lot about the logistics and stuff about the military. And I get to think about, because I like to go down rabbit holes. And when you're telling me these things, I'm thinking about all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I never thought about that. Oh, I never thought about that. And it spurs my mind to go into places that sometimes I haven't gone. And I enjoy it a lot.
Hey friends, now is the perfect time to take a tactical pause from the broadcast to quickly talk about the outstanding performance enhancing supplements from Neurohacker Collective. These go far beyond the average daily vitamin to give you a competitive edge in all areas of life. I got interested in nootropic supplements because I'd heard about their ability to provide superior mental acuity, clarity, and long-term brain health. What I found is that Neurohacker Collective has the best science-based nootropic formula available. I was so impressed with the company and team that I became an investor as well as a subscribing customer. Now I get a monthly bundle of their products that elevates cognitive function, personal energy, cellular regeneration, sleep quality, and optimizes the aging process. And who doesn't need that? If you're interested in promoting your best life with improved memory focus, vitality, and resilience with the latest scientific and natural biochemistry support, check out the Neurohacker Collective Discovery Bundle. You can get a 15% discount on your first order at everydaysamurai.life/neuro with the code EDSamurai. Join me as a subscriber. That's everydaysamurai.life/neuro and use the code EDSamurai, all one word, at checkout. Now, we return to our regularly scheduled program in progress. Well, it's a wonderful thing, and it's necessary because we have to overcome this push to divide and rule. We have to find ways to build authentic community from the ground up, and we have great tools with internet technology and this communication that we're on, even though we're geographically distant. And that's the thing with this pandemic response, is that they wanted us to be quote unquote socially distant. Well, the whole 6-foot rule and keeping people masked up and all that, that's all an excuse to divide and to keep us separated. And so the solution is community. The solution is coming together. And for me, anyway, the most authentic political organization is the militia. And we don't have those anymore. So it would be a place where people would come together and solve security-related issues, because that's the mission of the militia. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15, execute the laws, repel invasions, and suppress insurrections against constitutional order. So that's, again, another aspect of what we're missing in this modern age because of the deliberate efforts to divide and rule.
For sure, man. Like I look at other countries. I'm in Texas. I feel like Texas is literally the freest place in the world right now, as far as lockdowns. And I could be wrong. I'm sure there's secluded areas that have missed the pandemic 100%. I see other countries where they're like getting bashed over the head for not wearing a mask, or getting slammed and thrown in jail for not wearing a mask. And these people, they don't come together, and sometimes they do, but they try to shut them down that way too. And I feel like you're saying, man, we need to start militias, not violent ones, but
No, to uphold the law, uphold constitutional order as well.
Exactly. Yeah. To go against the tyranny, man. Because I feel like I've been seeing a lot of tyranny lately, and they got it backwards. Trump's a fascist. I'm like, dude, you have no fucking idea what fascism is. You've never experienced fascism. You probably never will. You've never seen a Nazi in your entire life. You probably never will. No, I'm not a Nazi. You know that. And these people are morons, to be honest with you. And I hate to say it that way, but
Yeah.
the more I read about China, like I'm reading a book called Tombstone on the Great Leap Forward in China, and 30 million people starve to death, and they're eating their own kids, and they're begging for rice when they have fields of rice and they have to give it to the government. I read these things and it just makes me more and more gratitude the more I read about history, because my life is so simple compared to the past. And I think that people are so privileged and not in the liberal sense of privilege, but literally privileged to be able to go to the corner store and buy a bunch of food if they wanted to. People just take that crap for granted, man. Big time.
Again, that's another reason to study economics and political economy, because that food just doesn't show up on the store shelves magically. There's a process involved, and it requires human action, and it requires planning and coordination. And that's what social harmony is. That's what social cooperation is. And we need to bolster the institutions that bring that about peacefully, right? I mean, the cartels battle each other, and that brings inefficiency, drug cartels and things along those lines. It hurts business, but the legitimate businesses, the ones that are allowed to operate legitimately anyway, those are the ones that coordinate. And when we talk about competition in the economic sphere, what we're really talking about is trying to shave off as much inefficiency as possible to bring goods and services that people want to them at the lowest price possible. That's real competition, and that's a virtuous cycle of delivering goods to people and expanding wealth. And that can only happen where private property is protected. But going back to what you were saying about fascism, we have to stick to consistent definitions. That's one of the most important things in any conversation. And so go back to the foremost progenitor of fascism, which was Mussolini. And the definition that he gave was everything inside the state, nothing against the state, nothing outside the state.
Yeah.
And so when you put things under the state, that becomes bureaucratized. And that's what fascia were. They were sheaves of wheat that were bound together back in Roman times. So the bureaucracies are the fascia. And to be anti-fascist really is not the socialism that the quote-unquote Antifa movement is pushing, but to allow people to be free, to not be bound up by these bundles of wheat like the fascia were. And what Mussolini meant was by putting everything under the state to be bureaucratically run, even if it was in private name only. And that's the same thing with National Socialism under the Nazis of Germany, right? You can have your private property in name only, but you're going to do what the state tells you.
Top down.
That's what National Socialism is. That's what fascism is. And so the resistance to that is to get things outside of the government bureaucracies and to let the free market operate. That's what real freedom looks like, and that's what real anti-fascism is. But we have that problem in the United States, especially in things like healthcare. It's one of the most heavily regulated areas of industry. And that's one of the reasons why the prices are so outrageous, making it very difficult for the average person to live. If we want to bring more healthcare to people, we need to get government and the bureaucracies out of the problem.
I agree, man. We need to get their asses out of there. I don't know their involvement. They always tell me that medical problem is impossible to fix. That it's too complicated. You don't understand. It's too complicated. We can't fix it. I feel like they're doing that on purpose. They're like, we can't. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they know what they got to do, and it doesn't involve them. I'm pretty sure. But again, no, y'all don't understand. It's too complicated. We can't figure it out. We're going to go ahead and make this expensive, and you're going to pay out the ass for the drugs. And, oh, you can't get your drugs from Canada because it'd be too cheap and we wouldn't be able to make any money. And insulin goes up 1,000%. I just think they want us dead. They want to kill us. They want us to be sick. They want to treat our sickness, and then we die. I don't think it's in their spreadsheets to make us live longer. And I know that there's doctors that do heart surgery and all this crap, and I think that's good. But I think there's a darker side to it also. Well, there has to be.
Going back to fascism, we should be very thankful that we live in a relatively free society. However, you can actually trace the roots of medical fascism in the United States for over 100 years. And
Interesting.
you can also pin it on the Rockefeller Foundation. If you want to talk about a conspiracy, there was
Hell
a
yeah. There we go.
deliberate move to put medicine under the government control, because then private entities like the Rockefeller Foundation and other what we call cronies benefit from this cartelization, because cartels don't work on the free market. Adam Smith, the great economist who wrote The Wealth of Nations, had a section towards the back of that book that said there's rarely an instance where businessmen get together and congregate where they don't conspire in some way
Yeah.
to put certain programs in place that will benefit them at the expense of their competitors and the customers. But they rarely work out.
They're not having tea. Yeah. Yeah. They're not getting together to have tea. That's for sure.
Yeah, but they can't really implement their plans unless somebody holds a gun to the customer's head. And that gun can only come, legitimately anyway, by way of government.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
That's why there's always the connections between government and private industry, or at least the big names in private industry. This is why the word public-private partnership is such a problem. Anytime you see that, you should automatically think corruption.
Yeah.
So going back to this Flexner report, back in the late 1800s, there was a lot of free market medicine, and admittedly, some of it was snake oil, but there were a lot of naturopathic remedies. Well, the Rockefellers were investing in pharmaceutical companies, which is allopathic medicine, the thing that says, here, we're going to take this manufactured drug to solve all your problems, basically.
Yeah.
So they wanted to put natural remedies into a bad light. So they commissioned this Flexner report. And just so happened that Flexner was also part of the Rockefeller family.
Damn.
And produced this report that went to Congress that said, oh my goodness, all these people are coming up with these folk remedies that do nothing, and it's all snake oil, and we need to do something about this. So that's where the American Medical Association came from, a licensing body that would prohibit certain medicinal practices from being done in the United States.
Dude.
And it all started to snowball from there, so that cartelization process was legislated into operation.
I'm just getting pissed right now. You're telling me this stuff because I didn't know that, dude.
Over 100 years,
And
man.
I go deep. I go deep on a lot of things, and those bastard Rockefellers are always sticking their greasy hands in all kinds of crap. And it makes perfect sense that those got involved, and you just explained it perfectly. And I'm going to definitely have to look into those reports that you're talking about. And I had no idea that the damn Rockefellers were getting involved in medicine. And it sounds legit. I know that's true. It sounds perfectly true, because obviously they're going to say, oh, you came up with this remedy? Nope, can't have that. Boom, you're shut down. We have this stupid little pill we'll give you instead. And they just want to keep us sick. And anytime you try to come up with some kind of holistic medicine or herbs, concoction of herbs, or any kind of healthy medicine, you get shot down. You get taken out by the damn pharmaceutical companies and that administration. What is the FDA or something like that?
American Medical Association, and all of that, including the FDA, all of that is just organized corruption under a legitimate face.
Organized crime, straight up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a great political sociologist, Charles Tilley, wrote a book, or an article rather, called State Making as Organized Crime. And that's one of the ways that you can look at, not necessarily government, but we say the state, which is defined as a monopoly on the use of force in a given geographic territory, coupled with the power to tax. And the same problems with monopoly that we hear about in other endeavors. We want to prevent monopoly, so we have to break up the phone company. That happened in AT&T, and they were talking about breaking up Microsoft at one point because it had a monopoly on browsers or something along those lines. Yeah. Those same dysfunctions that we describe with monopoly in industry also exist when it comes to government. And that's why decentralized government is so essential, and it's part of the American character. That's what we were supposed to get under the Constitution. But of course, people try to change definitions and then therefore change the institutions that then lead to this monopoly state that we're experiencing today. And then getting back to the idea of corruption in medicine, well, that's exactly what we have today with this push for a new vaccine to combat this extreme form of the flu that's currently underway and being used as a justification to lock down and keep us socially distant and all those other things. There is a wonderful solution that was made available and made public. It's called hydroxychloroquine. And when you couple that with zinc and zithromycin, this cocktail known as a Z-Pack, your chances of surviving this specific, I don't want to say the name because a lot of times it gets filtered out and flagged.
I've been banned. I have one episode banned so far.
Right. So we're not going to use the name, but that particular form of the flu can be cured readily if you take a Z-Pack. And, hydroxychloroquine is very cheap because there's no patents on it. The patent ran out long ago. And so the pharmaceutical companies, Big Pharma, the cartel that's only kept in place because of government involvement, wants to have a new solution that puts money in their pocket. So they don't want to have this easy remedy that's been available for so long and seems to work very well out there as the leading cure. They want to come up with something else. And so you see all this propaganda going into convincing the public that some new experimental, non-FDA approved, emergency authorization only is the solution. How absurd.
Damn, dude. You just articulated that perfectly. Okay. Those bastards. Remember when before the vaccine was out, everyone was talking about what's the right medicine? What should we do? What kind of pills should we use? Should we take zinc? Oh, we need to take vitamin C. I haven't heard a word about that since they came out with the vaccine. Now it's nothing but the vaccine, nonstop vaccine. They gave up 100% on everything else. You're right, man. I didn't even think about that. The hydroxychloroquine, they straight up banned that damn word. You couldn't even say that word on YouTube for a while. Like if you even,
and you have to ask why.
Right, exactly. Why? Because you nailed it, right? Because there's no patent. There's patents on the vaccine. I can guarantee you that. I'll bet my life on that one. Like you said, man, there's no way you can make money off hydroxychloroquine. So again, they're screwing us over. They're spitting out the propaganda to make the damn people that they're enslaving fight for their own cause, the government's cause, and they don't even know it. They're being used as weapons against truth. And if you say anything about hydroxychloroquine, you're a Trump supporter. And that crap was going on. It's insane how people just hear these things told to them by CNN and they just get on board like, oh, yes, sir, whatever the government says, big brother. Okay, big brother, you tell us how to think. Well, you tell us what to think and we're going to do it. That's what we got to do, and it's just, man, dude, that's insane. I never thought about that. It pisses me off again to hear that because even I forgot about that. I forgot about the hydroxychloroquine, vitamin C and all that crap. What happened? No one's talking about that. Not even Fox News, CNN, no one cares. It's all about the damn money and the pharmaceutical companies. They just want to maximize profits. I mean, don't these damn people get enough money? What the hell are they doing with all this money? What could they possibly do with it?
It's money, but it's also power. It's also about the power to control people. And again, that goes back to wanting to emasculate the population, keeping people physically distant, socially distant, and divide and rule. Yes, there's a strong monetary incentive. It always comes down to resources, but the power to direct resources is at the heart of it. This is why I really recommend that people spend more time studying economics and economic theory, political economic theory, rather than delving too far into the weeds of conspiracy, because the conspiracies kind of line up nicely, and you can understand when you look at incentive structures. Then from there, you look at institutional changes, adjustments that would be more conducive. And really, it comes back to understanding what federalism is, what the proper sphere and scope of government authority is, and the essential nature of limiting government authority so that there is no monopoly granted to those people in government.
Oh, man, because a conspiracy has kind of a bad connotation. The word itself, all of a sudden, when you hear that word, you think, oh, 9/11 truthers or stuff like that, or lizard people. But to me, it sounds like you're a damn black belt in conspiracy because you've been ingrained in that system and you've learned so much. Like you said at the beginning, the conspiracy is right out in the open. You're saying things that are blowing my mind. It's just on the side of political facts and analytics and, history and what's that word that you said? Economic.
Political economy, yeah.
Yeah, the political economy. Like, that's the stuff I'm talking about. When I hear conspiracy, though, it's not just aliens, it's stuff like that. It's stuff about, more of like the literal meaning, people in secret conspiring to do things.
Yes. And to see it clearly without getting enthralled by the story. So, as a police officer, I experienced a lot of drama. You go to a domestic violence call and it's he said, she said. Who started it? Well, the other person did, of course, so it's their fault. And you get these stories and you can't really make sense of them. So when you step out from the storyline and look at it from the incentive structure, you get a new perspective. And then you can see it with a little bit more clarity. You can also see what you don't want to get wrapped up into. You don't want to fall into that rabbit hole. Yes, the rabbit holes are there and it's easy to fall into them, but you don't see solutions when you're wrapped up in the story.
Yeah.
This goes back to the martial arts, being that Zen warrior. You see things more clearly when you rise above the story and you don't get wrapped up in the drama. Going back to Adam Smith, the fact that people conspire together, and the word conspiracy just means to breathe together, respiration, and con is always together. So going back to the Latin. So the word conspiracy is not a problem. In fact, the demonization of the word conspiracy, just like the demonization of the word militia, all of that is deliberate and it's part of the controlled media. The media is enthralled to the government. Just look at the regulatory structure. The media is controlled because there is such a thing as a regulatory agency that governs them. And they are beholden to the government for access.
Damn.
Right? They fly on Air Force One. If they want to fly on Air Force One, they want to be in the White House press pool. They have to fly right. They have to follow the party line.
The media is getting access to all the information by playing ball with the damn government, right?
They are.
And that makes perfect sense. They're playing ball, and in turn, they're getting told what to say and what they can say. To them, that means money. They think, oh, we're going to get more ratings. Oh, we're going to get profit. It goes back to Project Mockingbird, man, where the CIA was telling the news channels what to say, and they were writing the scripts for them. And I don't think it ever stopped.
That's an excellent case in point. Operation Mockingbird. That's why I refer to them as the Mockingbird media, even today. The congressional inquiry shows that Operation Mockingbird was shut down, but really, can we really believe that? Or did it remorph and get called something else and it's become even more evolved?
Yeah.
I think that it's inevitable. And another illustration of this is in Hollywood. The U.S. military actually has a Hollywood liaison department or an entertainment department. And so when you see Transformers and you've got these naval aircraft carriers in the background or part of the story, in order to get that aircraft carrier, Hollywood needs to ask permission. And if they want the footage that they're looking for, they're going to have to comply with what the military wants done and the messaging that the military wants. So that's just, again, you look at the incentive structure and the story of the conspiracy can just fall away because the corruption is at the institutional level.
Dude, it goes so deep and it's so wide and big. They took off the patch on Tom Cruise's jacket in the new Top Gun because China didn't like it.
That's right.
That's right. What the hell? Okay, it's no longer a conspiracy. You cannot deny that China has influence in Hollywood. And like you're saying, the government has influence in Hollywood. And Hollywood is, I think, is the most vile, disgusting group of reprobates in the country. But yet the inversion is all these Hollywood stars say that Trump supporters are garbage. I don't understand that. I don't understand how that inversion can be and people can accept that and take that as fact.
Well, the money, it takes a lot of financial resources to get a movie project off the ground, especially in today's day and age with advanced special effects and all the work that goes into making these happen. So
tons of money. Yeah.
It goes back to the golden rule. Whoever has the gold makes the rules. So China is financing these movie projects. Therefore, the movie producers are going to have to do what the financiers want.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. Man, I really enjoyed this. I learned a lot, man. You were able to articulate things that I knew were to be true, but I feel like you gave me a clearer understanding because you've been mixed into all that stuff and you've seen it. Thank you, dude. That was awesome.
I appreciate what you're doing here as well. We got to get the word out and give people hope. Know that there are solutions available as long as we shine the light of consciousness and let the truth prevail.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. I really enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you soon, man.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you, man. Bye.
Friends, we hope you've enjoyed this episode of Everyday Samurai and look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure to subscribe to our feed so that you stay up to date with all of our latest offerings. If you like what you heard here, be sure to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or the podcatcher of your choosing. Remember to like and share the show with a friend, somebody who you think would resonate with our message of advancing liberty through a victorious mindset, martial arts, and the science of political economy. Help us build that community of enlightened warriors in service to liberty. And to live your highest and best life, check out the fine supplements at Neurohacker Collective. Go to everydaysamurai.life/neuro to find out more about how to gain more clarity, mental focus, energy, sleep quality, and every other kind of cellular health that leads to a more skillful aging process. And take 15% off of your first order with the code EDSamurai at checkout. That's everydaysamurai.life/neuro. Use the code EDSamurai, all one word, at checkout. A special thanks to the Lizard Network for inviting us onto their program, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, stay sharp, stay aware, and be well.